Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into something I know so many of us are feeling. Why the classic American dream suddenly feels like you're sprinting on a treadmill just to stay in exactly the same place. If you've been feeling the pinch lately, or just kind of wondering why the everyday math isn't mathing anymore, well, you are definitely not alone. Today, we aren't just complaining about the problems, we're going to map out the massive structural shifts in our economy, and more importantly, build a real survival blueprint so you can adapt. Let's get right into it.
For nearly a century, the deal was pretty straightforward, right? You work hard, you buy a home, and you raise a family. That old formula meant your wages actually outpaced the price of a car and a mortgage. But looking ahead to 2026, that industrial age formula is just completely broken. The term middle class used to literally mean financial peace, but today, it feels a whole lot closer to financial extinction.
And honestly, nothing hits harder than this number right here, 49%. Today, effectively half of all American families cannot even afford the true cost of basic survival. A generation ago, a single median salary could comfortably anchor an entire household. Now, half the population is totally priced out of basic existence. And we aren't talking about luxury vacations or fancy clothes here. We're talking about the absolute baseline necessities required just to keep a household running. So, what exactly changed?
Well, over the last 40 years, a sort of quiet economic theft has taken place. Worker productivity absolutely exploded. I mean, think about the internet, automation, and hyper-optimized workflows. Yet median wages? They stayed completely flat when you adjust for the real cost of living. You are literally producing more value than any generation in history, but your slice of the pie hasn't grown a single inch. This stagnation is the core crack in the foundation of the middle class, and it really sets the stage for what we call the twin squeezes.
All right, Section 1. The skyrocketing survival costs, the first squeeze.
The first, and arguably the most brutal nail in the coffin, is the housing wall. $486,000. That is the astronomical average home sale price creeping up on us right now. Previous generations could lock down a starter home with just a few years of basic, diligent saving. But today, the housing market feels completely walled off to the average earner. It's this massive barrier to entry that's actively preventing younger generations from ever building that foundational equity the middle class was built on in the first place.
And hey, if you're thinking, I'll just rent and save the difference, well, think again. Rents are averaging over $1,800 a month. What that effectively means is regular workers are now forced to hand over up to 50% of their entire take-home pay just to keep a roof over their heads. When half of your income literally evaporates the second it hits your bank account just for shelter, your mathematical margin for error in life, it shrinks to zero.
Add to that the compounding weight of global supply shocks and the year-over-year inflation spike hovering around 4%. Listen, inflation acts as a massive hidden tax. It absolutely devours your purchasing power at the gas pump and in the grocery aisle. It is the exact reason your favorite box of cereal is now twice the price for half the volume. The dollars you used to tuck away into a savings account or an emergency fund are now being consumed just to keep the lights on and the fridge stocked.
Just look at the total core burden at the bottom of this breakdown. Over $3,000 a month. Let that sink in. That is nearly $29,000 a year just to make sure your kids have a safe place to be while you go to work and to keep standard health insurance. This dynamic effectively forces dual-income families into a state of total stagnation. You're working incredibly hard, literally just to pay the system so you can afford to keep working. It's wild.
Moving on to Section 2, the collapse of stable work, the second squeeze.
So traditional jobs, the ones with linear career growth, reliable pensions, and rock-solid health benefits, they're vanishing. Today's workforce is highly polarized. Stable roles are being rapidly replaced by automated, algorithmic freelance loops and gig economy contracts. And sure, while the gig economy definitely offers flexibility, it offers absolutely zero security. You're basically at the mercy of an app's algorithm, devoid of a safety net. So your income can fluctuate wildly, while your skyrocketing survival costs remain stubbornly fixed.
Meanwhile, what about the traditional path to a good job? For decades, higher education was pushed as the undisputed golden ticket to the middle class. But look at what it's become today, a massive financial anchor. The student loan crisis has evolved into a compounding system of high-interest debt that traps millions of workers before their careers even begin. You're essentially forced to take on mortgage-sized debt just for the permission to enter a hyper-competitive, polarized job market.
Plus, we have to look at the macro environment where all of this is happening. We're seeing an unprecedented consolidation of corporate conglomerates and massive e-commerce giants. And guys, this isn't just a shift in our shopping habits, it's a structural extraction of wealth. These massive entities are systematically wiping out local Main Street businesses. When small businesses close, the wealth and opportunity they generated gets extracted directly from local communities and funneled straight up to Wall Street. It completely destroys local middle-class ownership.
All right, let's get into Section 3, the blueprint for survival, becoming hyper-adaptable.
The economic math here is undeniably clear. The modern system is fundamentally designed to squeeze you from both sides. You've got flat, polarized wages on one end and hyperinflated, inescapable survival costs on the other. It leaves absolutely no margin for error. But understanding this paradigm, really seeing the matrix for what it is, that is your very first line of defense. Once you truly understand this squeeze, your mindset has to change immediately. You have to shift your focus entirely away from lifestyle consumerism. The days of keeping up with the Joneses or buying depreciating assets just to look successful, those days are over. Your primary focus must pivot aggressively toward capital protection and the acquisition of scalable digital skills. You have to learn how to produce value in a digital, borderless economy, rather than just consuming in a highly taxed physical one.
And that leads us directly to the actionable 3-step survival blueprint. Step 1, stop financing liabilities. You've got to control your cash flow by refusing to take on long-term consumer debt for cars, high-end tech, or really anything else that decreases in value. Just stop paying interest on things that lose you money. Step 2, build digital equity. Diversify outside your standard 9-to-5 by investing your after-hours time into scalable media, digital assets, or independent income models that aren't tied directly to your hourly labor. And finally, Step 3, protect your core capital. Take whatever disposable income you can carve out and aggressively channel it into high-yield financial shelters, real assets, and strong cash reserves. Essentially, become your own bank.
The classic American dream hasn't completely vanished, but its rules, they've been entirely rewritten for a new era. Now that you know the math, you are left with one vital choice. Are you going to let the system quietly squeeze you out, or are you going to adapt, build your own equity, and beat the math? The blueprint is right here. So, what's your next move going to be?